Hello humans, Master DinnerFlax here, and today I'm going to be going over some kind of important in a way. I feel that this is kind of being ignored, but there are a lot of cards right now that need some major reprints, and it's one thing to say a card's expensive, so reprint it, but then there's also the thing where there's not enough copies of it in the game, or it's been expensive for so long when everyone needs it. Um, and as you can see from the first card right here, Regeki. This card, ever since it's been limited, ever since it's been back at 1 for 3 years now, there's never been a time where it was under $20. And that was with a gold rare reprint. And when you're looking at this card, it's such a necessity to have somewhere in your deck. And this is like one of the easiest ones I could find. I also looked on eBay, and they don't have low price ones either. This is bad. This is like, it's been over 2 years since the last reprint, and it's seeing just as much, if not more, play since then. So why is it that we haven't got a reprint for a card that everyone so desperately needs? And it's like, yeah, it's kind of risky to see a reprint now and buy it because they put Dark Hold one, so we might not keep Regeki. But it shouldn't be this expensive. It just shouldn't. This should have been reprinted so much more, and it should be just so much more accessible than it is. And then next, Blue Eyes, White Dragon. This is another one where it's kind of okay to be at its price, but it is another thing. It belongs in a deck that's not one of the best decks, but it's a really powerful one. I don't know. This is more of a fan favorite, so this one's probably all right, but it would be nice to see a reprint because copies just keep getting ate up. And then this is a card I want to talk about. So there's a difference between a card being expensive and a card not being accessible. A $70 card is nothing new to Yu-Gi-Oh, but it is unfortunate. This is a thing that happened with Max C back in the day too, is there aren't copies for people out there. It doesn't matter how much money you have. You could be a billionaire and not have access to Ash Blossom just because they're so scarce, but everyone needs so many of them. It's similar to what happened with Max C back in the day, and they had to reprint it. They literally had to, because it was just too rough for everyone to get any. So they had to put it in a tin. And I think this card is very similar to Max C in that aspect, where it's so much stronger than the other two of the seasonal hand traps because it's so generic that it's worth main decking. If you're going to play it, you should have a bare minimum of 2 in your main deck and possibly 3 somewhere from your main to side deck. So when you're looking at a short print secret rare like that, the people just really don't have access to it. Every copy is being held on too tight, and it really just doesn't matter how much money you have, you just can't get it. This one, there's nothing you can really do about it at this point. This has been reprinted twice already, and it's still a $10 rare. I don't know how they can reprint this to where it's like a normal card. But yeah, this is weird. And then the reprints are Fogblade and Cloak here, mainly just the Phantom Knight cards that haven't seen reprints, and it was kind of surprising that they reprinted Breaksword, but not Fogblade and not Cloak. That one got me weird because those cards are always kind of pricey. They've always have been, and they're like 2 or 3 ofs most of the time. And it's like Fogblade is just natural better Fiendish Chain. So those could really use some reprints because they're getting to be 2 years old and no one has no one has seen a reprint of them. And that's kind of unfortunate because there are plenty of people who would much prefer Frogblade over Phoenix Chain. And then the last two are effectively the same card. They're nearly $40 each, and you're playing like 2 or 3 of both of them. In a deck that has seen almost no success ever since its release. And that's another thing that kind of bugs me. Decks that don't decks that aren't that powerful should not be this expensive. It's weird because when you're buying this, okay, so here's 120 right here, here's 120 right here, so 240, and then you have to buy the rest of the deck, which also has plenty of other expensive cards. So you're spending $500 on an anti-meta deck that you might not even get first at locals with. And that also kind of irritates me. Decks that have not ever been at the top that are this expensive just don't really make sense to me because they're a very heavy investment for a thing that you get very little out of. And I think that's unfortunate. And cards like that really just should be reprinted, which is kind of what I was saying about the Blue Eyes. When you're putting in debt, when you have expensive decks that aren't even top tier and decks that struggle just to keep up with the normal meta, they shouldn't be at an expensive price like this. It really doesn't make sense. But that's just me. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully, you kind of see these cards and realize these are in desperate needs of reprint. Mainly this one. This is another Max C situation on our hands, and it's very unfortunate because everyone loves this card. Thank you all for watching, and remember, Master DinnerFlax will take your soul.